In Australia and New Zealand, April 25th is known as ANZAC Day. For many Australians, from a national identity point of view, this is the most significant day of the year, far more important than our official national day, Australia Day. What the day commemorates is the landing of the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, known as the ANZACs, on Gallipoli in World War I, April 25th, 1915. Now, to outsiders, this may be strange that we identify so strongly with that, because when you look at it, Gallipoli Campaign was a failed military campaign. The Australian, New Zealand, English and other Empire forces suffered massive losses and withdrew without achieving their aims. So why is it that this day is so important to Australians and New Zealanders, and why is the ANZAC spirit such a big thing? Well, as a bit of background, Australia, for instance, had only been a federation, an actual country, as opposed to a British colony, since the turn of the century, and there was a real quest for a national identity, and there was a feeling that the service in the war could bring forth the national spirit and prove to the world Australia was a real country. It was a nation with a right to be proud, and people were very quick to sign up when Britain wanted people to enlist. The Gallipoli Campaign was part of an attempt to knock Turkey, the Ottoman Empire, out of World War II. The Ottoman Empire had aligned themselves with Germany, and England were very worried about the war having another front and wanted to knock them clean out. The original campaign, spearheaded by Winston Churchill, had been for a naval attack up a narrow strait known as the Dardanelles. When that proved to not be possible, a land assault was regarded as necessary, and the ANZACs landed at a few beaches broadly known as the Gallipoli Campaign. There were multiple landings, but one thing they had in common: massive casualties were suffered. In fact, on both sides of the conflict, the dead and wounded were probably about 25% of the total force. A well-known example of just how bad this conflict was the attempt to take an area known as the Neck. And this battle was actually immortalised in a film called Gallipoli, starring young Mel Gibson. The final scenes of the film showed the rather disastrous launch of a few waves of attack from the Australian 3rd Light Horse Brigade. Although they were the Light Horse Brigade, they'd left their horses behind in Egypt. They were an infantry unit in this conflict. The plan was a naval bombardment would hit the Turkish trenches, the Light Horse would go across in waves and take the Turkish positions. Another attack from the New Zealanders was supposed to come from a different direction and take this whole area. Unfortunately, the New Zealanders had been held up, and the naval bombardment was mistimed. It was 6 or 7 minutes early, which gave the Turks plenty of time to get back into their trenches before the Light Horse had even launched their first wave. The first wave was launched, largely wiped out. There were reports of some of their marker flags making it to the trenches. Second wave went, cut down by machine gun fire. Third wave, same thing happened. One of the popular legends of the ANZAC campaign was that even the Turks were horrified by what was happening, and Australians in their trenches could hear the Turks calling, "No more, no more, stop, stop coming." But they kept coming, and the Turks kept firing. Of the 600 members of the 3rd Light Horse Brigade, 249 would die, over 100 would be injured, and it was a complete failure. To give a bit of context, the entire area of the Neck was only about the size of 3 tennis courts. The goal for the Light Horse was to advance about 27 metres. They didn't make it.